The Lord be with you, and a warm welcome to you from all of us here at Powerscourt with Kilbride. It's Sunday the 26th of March, and today we have a rather long Gospel reading again, but in it we hear of the resurrection of Lazarus from the dead. Jesus raises Lazarus from the dead. But there are two verses in this long scripture that I really wanted to hone in on today, verses 5 and 6, and this will become clearer as we go through this small service this morning. You're very welcome to join us now for about 10 or 15 minutes as we draw breath, as we allow God into our busy lives and see what He has to say to us today. And so, as our little service together in this square begins, we pause for a moment in prayer. A certain man was ill, Lazarus of Bethany, the village of Mary and her sister Martha. Mary was the one who anointed the Lord with perfume and wiped his feet with her hair. Her brother Lazarus was ill. So the sisters sent a message to Jesus, "Lord, he whom you love is ill." But when Jesus heard it, he said, "This illness does not lead to death. Rather, it is for God's glory, so that the Son of God may be glorified through it." Accordingly, though Jesus loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus, after having heard that Lazarus was ill, he stayed 2 days longer in the place where he was. Then, after this, he said to the disciples, "Let us go to Judea again. Our friend Lazarus has fallen asleep, but I am going there to awaken him." The disciples said to him, "Lord, if he has fallen asleep, he will be all right." Jesus, however, had been speaking about his death, but they thought that he was referring merely to sleep. Then Jesus told them plainly, "Lazarus is dead. For your sake, I am glad I was not there, so that you may believe. But let us go to him." Thomas, who was called the twin, said to his fellow disciples, "Let us also go, that we might die with him." When Jesus arrived, he found that Lazarus had already been in the tomb 4 days. Now Bethany was near Jerusalem, some miles away, and many of the Jews had come to Martha and Mary to console them about their brother. When Martha heard that Jesus was coming, she went and met him, while Mary stayed at home. Martha said to Jesus, "Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. But even now I know that God will give you whatever you ask of him." Jesus said to her, "Your brother will rise again." Martha said to him, "I know that he will rise again at the resurrection on the last day." Jesus said to her, "I am the resurrection and the life. Those who believe in me, even though they die, will live. And everyone who lives and believes in me will never die. Do you believe this?" She said to him, "Yes, Lord, I believe that you are the Messiah, the Son of God, the one coming into the world." When she had said this, she went back and called her sister Mary and told her privately, "The teacher is here and is calling for you." And when she heard it, she got up quickly and went to him. Now Jesus had not yet come to the village, but was still at the place where Martha had met him. The Jews who were with her in the house, consoling her, saw Mary get up quickly to go out, and they followed her, because they thought that she was going to the tomb to weep there. When Mary came to where Jesus was and saw him, she knelt at his feet and said to him, "Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died." When Jesus saw her weeping, and the Jews who came with her also weeping, he was greatly disturbed in spirit and deeply moved. He said, "Where have you laid him?" They said to him, "Lord, come and see." Jesus began to weep. So the Jews said, "See how he loved him." But some of them said, "Could not he who opened the eyes of a blind man have kept this man from dying?" Then Jesus, again greatly disturbed, came to the tomb. It was a cave, and a stone was lying against it. Jesus said, "Take away the stone, Martha." The sister of the dead man said to him, "Lord, already there is a stench, because he has been dead 4 days." Jesus said to her, "Did I not tell you that if you believed, you would see the glory of God?" So they took away the stone, and Jesus looked upward and said, "Father, I thank you for having heard me. I knew that you always hear me, but I have said this for the sake of the crowd standing here, so that they may believe that you sent me." When he had said this, he cried with a loud voice, "Lazarus, come out." The dead man came out, his hands and feet bound with strips of cloth, and his face wrapped in a cloth. Jesus said to them, "Unbind him and let him go." Many of the Jews, therefore, who had come with Mary and had seen what Jesus did, believed in him. It's all been abundantly clear and made perfect sense so far in our scriptures that Jesus loved the family in Bethany. He loved Lazarus and Mary and Martha. He knew that Martha was an excellent cook and that Mary was an excellent listener. And he loved Lazarus. And so we hear this again today. In our scripture, word filters through to Jesus that Lazarus is sick. And verse 5 says he loved them, Mary and Martha and Lazarus. So, verse 6, he decides to stay where he is for an extra 2 days. What? I remember reading a piece once written by an American lady who had 3 sons, and one of her sons was an addict. And she said things started to go wrong for him when he was a teenager, that he started to go to wild parties and to misbehave, and he started to drink an awful lot. And as he grew older, eventually this drinking and behaviour turned into drugs and he became dependent. She said she used to wake him up in the morning and drive him to his job as he got older in order that he could keep the job that he had. She'd spot him for cash, for loans that he had taken out or monies that he owed, and she'd even bail him out of prison or jail when he was taken in by the police. She remembers that on one particular day, she got a call again from the station to say, "Come and pick up your son." And this time, she said no. She says now that as she looks at her son, who's now in his 30s, with his own little boy on his knee watching the soccer, she realises without any doubt, that if she had intervened on that day one more time, that her son may not be there now, and indeed her grandson. Sometimes all of us have Lazarus moments. Moments when we feel that God waits for those 2 days, that he doesn't intervene when we want him to. And most of us are too polite to challenge this. We say we don't understand God, we want to have faith in God, and so we hold fast politely. But really, if the truth be known, we're screaming out to God, "Why did you do that?" Or "Why didn't you do that? Why did you do that for her and not for me? I've been asking you for this and nothing has happened. Why is this?" everyone has Lazarus moments. Everyone has had them. Most people are afraid to challenge God because loyalty and faith is what makes them say, well, I don't understand, but I know that God is there, and that's grand, and that's what I would say to you is the right thing to do. But we also need to be honest with ourselves. We also need to be able to say, this didn't happen the way I wanted it to for me or for that person that I love. But trust. Jesus knew that Lazarus would be raised. He could see ahead. And we, because of the privilege of Scripture, can see far farther than Martha, who, and Mary, challenged Jesus. God is a God of outcome, and we are a people of process. God sees the bigger picture. We can only see what lies ahead of us now and now and now. If you think that you have control over the outcome, you're lining yourself up for continuous disappointment. If, on the other hand, you place your trust into the God who knows the outcome, who has control over that. And can I just say to you, trusting in God, real trust and faith in God, is not when He is palpably present, but when He is perceived to be absent.